Hi there. No.
Hi.
All ready?
Yeah. I've been ready for a while.
Right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, viewers from all over India. Here's a warm welcome from the Indian Chamber of Commerce. I'm logging in from Calcutta, and our guest this evening, the most vivacious Parmesh Shahani. Hi, Parmesh.
How are you?
Um,
I'm
I'm
sorry I'm
good.
late. I was trying
Yes.
to get into the call from my office computer, but I think StreamYard is not allowed. So I'm calling from my phone. So if I'm vertical on some of your screens, it's not that I'm trying to have a slimming effect, although that may also be possible. It's just that I'm calling from my phone.
Vertical is always good, right? Parmesh, please tell us something about yourself in short, because we have lots and tons to discuss with you.
Well, I mean, just in short, I feel very blessed to be able to do the work I do on a daily basis. I work at Godrej. I work at the Godrej Industries Group, which is 128 years young. We are founded in the Swadeshi movement of our country, and right from the day we were created, we've been committed to values of diversity and inclusion, helping imagine and co-create a better India for everyone. And I just feel really blessed to be working here, to be running the DI lab, to be able to, on a daily basis, create infrastructures of possibility for so many people in our country, both within Godrej as well as through the advocacy work that we do in helping reimagine a much more inclusive and Viksit Bharat. So I live my life with such gratitude. And when we have folks like all of you at ICC joining us on this journey, it's just amazing because we're at this wonderful opportunity and moment right now in our history where India is advancing all over the world. There are so many challenges, whether in terms of values, whether in terms of, certainly in terms of diversity, equity, and inclusion, people seem to be seesawing. So I just feel blessed to be in a country at this moment where everyone is committed to helping create a more equitable and inclusive India. And I think we can really show the world what good inclusion looks like with the work we do over the next few years.
Thank you.
So
Thank you,
that's
Parmesh.
something about me. I just feel very happy and grateful to be doing the work that I do on a daily basis.
Excellent. Tell us something specifically about the Godrej DI lab that you head. What is it? We know it's diversity, equity, and inclusion. But for the sake of our viewers, very quickly, what is this Godrej DEI lab all about?
So yeah, DI stands for diversity, equity, and inclusion. As you said, it's a phrase which has become more popular now. But honestly, we many companies in India and across have been doing it for years. It just means that your organization and the country at large and the world at large need to look like the world at large, right? Which is there are 50% of women in the world. There are 6 to 10% LGBTQ individuals in the world. There are 10 to 15% persons with disabilities in the world. But our workplaces don't look like that. And because of that, this underrepresentation, we are underserved in our workplaces, right? We don't have the benefit of this talent, because of which we're not able to create innovative products and services that serve all our consumers. And it's this vicious chain, right? So the DI lab, we started it a couple of years ago, saying that, can we create a constant space through which we are pushing all our Godrej Industries group of companies to think about inclusion all the time, through policies, through processes, through nudges, through leadership trainings, through data, but also through advocacy, through storytelling, through celebrations, through marking things, whether it's Women's Day, whether it's Pride, whether it's International Day for Persons with Disabilities, all of these moments, and really create a mahal, a momentum towards inclusion within Godrej, and then through the work we do at Godrej. And if you go to our website, godrejdlab.com, you can see we have hundreds of resources for anyone who's interested, really to create this public resource as such for the country at large, for anyone who wants to use it, people in other companies, students, etc., so that we can go on this journey of inclusion together. So that's what the lab is. It's a unique kind of space that exists
Space.
both within Godrej, but also belongs to the world at large. And our aim is very much to, sit at these intersections, right? So just give you, and to give you an example, this is Women's Month. I mean, every month is Women's Month with us, but just this month, we have released a report with Ashoka University on returnship of women to workplaces. In a few days from now, we'll be doing a second edition of the Women in Agri Summit, where we're releasing a report with IIM Ahmedabad on how do we get more women in agri. I mean, there's just, one of our other businesses, Godrej Capital, has just launched Arohi, which is a platform for women entrepreneurs, especially. So just to give you a sense of, the incredible work that is being done. We just opened Godrej Consumer Products. In fact, last week, just opened a factory in on the outskirts of Chennai. And on day one, the factory has 50% women, 5% LGBT and PWD employees to start with. So it's the lab in a sense is a conduit. It creates momentum to all of these, and our aim is to collaborate with anyone,
Right.
ICC, anyone
Wonderful.
actually in the world who wants to
Wonderful.
help create a more equitable world. And we say let's compete in the marketplace, but in the inclusion space, let's collaborate with everyone and get this done. So that's why we
Wonderful.
exist. Yeah,
Yes, yes. You see, for the sake for viewers, PWD does not necessarily
persons with
stand for
disability.
Public Works Department.
Yes,
It's people
yeah,
with disabilities, which is
correct.
what
Yeah,
his lab
yeah.
focuses on too. Parmesh, you've spoken so much about this being the month and all these months being ours and all of it. Just a few months back, Business Today carried a very incisive article that puts India only ahead of Pakistan, but behind Bangladesh, behind Sri Lanka, behind Bhutan, behind all our neighbors, and behind perhaps most of the world in terms of gender gap, uh, gender pay gap, right?
Yeah.
In India, for every 100 rupees that a man earns, a woman is paid only rupees 40. Why do you think that is so? Employment of women alone is not enough until they're given their due as humans. Why do you
Yeah.
think is this kind of a huge, humongous, terrible, traumatizing gender pay gap still there in Viksit Bharat?
I think there's so many challenges to solve, right? And
I
at
know.
least these numbers just give us a sense of the kind of work that we have to do. The gender
True.
pay gap exists everywhere. It's not
Yes.
as drastic at Godrej. It's still there. It certainly wouldn't be so drastic. But we're talking about it all the time. We're actually in the middle of an exercise to say what would parity look like now and for the future, and how do we get other organizations as well to commit to it so that we can in a sense lead the way. But again, as you said, the corporate world can only do so much, right? And we're most jobs in India still are not in the corporate sector. They're not in the large corporate sector. They're in MSMEs. They're in the informal and unorganized sector. And there, I think the gaps, as indeed the other indicators, just give you a sense of what is there on the ground, right? The fact that there is terrible inequity. I mean, we don't need to read that report. We just need to look all around us to see the inequity that exists in our lives, in our homes, in our families, and certainly in our workplaces, formal or informal. I'm actually so this is something that we should acknowledge, we should feel ashamed about, and we should all commit to figuring out how to resolve. Because we cannot, you're right, we cannot create a Viksit Bharat with such huge gaps, right? We have to create, uh, I mean, not just participation, but also decency and dignity, and reducing these gaps to a point where everyone who participates in the workforce feels that they are equitably and fairly and equally paid as well. So I don't know, if I'm not an economist, I mean, there are incredible people working on this at universities all across India and the world. And this is also one of the reasons we set up the lab. We want to find some of them, tap into them, work alongside them to come up with solutions. But so I don't know how we'll solve it for the country, but I can tell you that at an organizational level, companies like ours are trying to solve this very much so.
Sure.
It's very much on our
Sure.
minds. Yeah.
There are two things I'd like to say here, Parmesh. I come from the land of Swami Vivekananda. Not that he
Yeah.
belongs to this land alone, he belongs to the world. The point
Yes.
is, he had always said that a
Yeah.
bird flies on two wings. You
Yeah.
see, one a male, the other female.
Yeah.
So until and unless you have both the wings flapping in unison and flapping equally, we're not going to get anywhere with the country we all want to build. Okay.
Yeah.
The second thing is, yeah,
I
yeah,
agree. Yeah.
you agree. The second thing is, this is aside because we're going to move forward to other things. We don't have too much of time. Parmesh, statistics all over. I mean, there's nowhere you just look in. It's all over the place. That the number of women in the workforce in India is steadily falling since 2009. The
Yeah.
number of women, and you speak of inclusivity and women, is the first focus, whether it be of your lab or of our society as a
Yeah.
whole.
Yeah.
You see, the
Yeah.
number of women in higher education and education is going steadily up, steadily.
Yeah.
But the number of
Yeah.
women in the workplace is falling, perhaps because we feel, what's the point? We won't be given our due. So, yes, thank you for assuring us that on behalf of corporate India and as part of corporate India, we're all
Yeah.
committed to being aware and sensitive about this, right?
Yeah, no,
Um,
Swati, I mean, that's the big, I mean, it angers me also because, every time I go, like yesterday, for example, we were doing a case study, we're sponsoring a case study contest at IIM Mumbai, right? And I spent a couple of hours with the students there. At the entry level in business schools, at the entry level, for example, like I'm in the corporate world, so that's a slice of India. But you see the talent, you see that the girls are so much smarter than the guys. I'm sorry to all the guys listening, but this is just a fact. And you just see, right? But still, and you see at entry level in most funnels, most organizations' funnels, entry level is equal. But this falling is not just at the national level. It's not, I mean, there are many reasons for it, right? Post COVID, there are many reasons for it. And like, enough people have written about it. Like who stopped working because of, COVID, who was prevented from coming back to work. I mean, there's so many reasons for these falling numbers. The Lapata ladies, uh, as one of our joint reports, we as we call them. But, so it angers me also because it's even in they say even in say girls who are graduating from these incredible institutes and starting off, the fact that so many decades later we're still talking about basic barriers, we're still talking about how many people drop out after marriage or childbirth, we're still talking about all this stuff. It's damn irritating. You'd have thought that 20, 25 years you would have figured some of this out. But, I think so we have to, which is why everything we do in our workplaces is only so much. I think and I think you're indicating that as well. To really shift this, we have to change societies and our mindsets. We have to start with our families.
Parmesh, the slide started as far back as 2009. It has
Yeah.
only continued unabated. It is
Yeah.
downright embarrassing for me as a woman
Yeah.
who has advocated the fact that choosing to work should not be an option. Just like a
Yeah.
man is expected to work, a woman too
Yeah.
must fulfill her potential, right? But
Yeah.
then let's move on. Let's move on to something that is encompassing us in huge droves from all around, which is the rolling back of inclusivity in the world today, whether it's a Meta, a Google, an Amazon. I mean,
Yeah.
what is happening? Why would the fountainhead of it all be an orange haired man? I mean, what has it got to do with what happened to the world all of a sudden? What are your thoughts on that, please?
I mean, I don't know what happened, and I wake up in the morning and I try and, I mean, it's very hard, right? But to see, we have friends all over the world who've been directly impacted.
Heartbreaking.
At Godrej, we started a Pride Fund recently to support LGBTQ NGOs, alongside Radhika Piramal, Kesav Suri Foundation, Dasra, etc. And it's to give Indian LGBT NGOs Indian money. And we started thinking about this a while ago. But since we started the fund, the number of organizations who have lost their funding, for example, because so much of their funding was international, is so much. So it pains me to see that stuff that we struggled for over decades. And these movements are done in solidarity, right? The feminist movement, say in India, learns from other countries learn from India, and that's how globally you move, right? And it takes decades to make progress. For example, say women's suffrage, for example, right? It takes decades, women being given the right to vote in some part of the world. Finally, you reach a point in India. Finally, then you have reservations for women, say, for example, women's seats and all that. It's progress. So it pains me
Ongoing.
to see decades of progress to be, wiped away almost in a few days. And likewise for LGBTQ rights also all around the world, we've all learned from each other. So to see trans rights in this, progress over years and then suddenly being left in a state of confusion is painful. I can say two things. One is that uh, you know what people say and what people do might be different. So what we are learning from, say, our friends in global companies is that many of them are saying that they are rolling back or stopping, but they're just giving it other names and they're continuing the good work. So that to me is good. They're saying, key for optics, perhaps we have to roll back or rename some of this, but the good work is continuing. That is, I think one good thing. And the second thing in India is that, I'm seeing none of this is impacting India so far. Because I think in India, a lot of the Indian companies who have been on this journey have been doing it because it is rooted in Indian ideas of inclusivity. It's not a diktat from a global foreign office or some headquarters or whatever. And so I am seeing, whether you look again, we've been having so many interactions now. We had Tata Chemicals, we had, like, there's so many companies, Tata Motors, for example, uh, so many companies that come, Biocon Biologics. You name a company and they're actually very, very committed and they're thinking of different ways to enhance DI and not cut it back. And the other thing I'm noticing is that, Indian subsidiaries of, say, international companies are also now, because they are, their parents might be located globally, but their staff and their mahal and their ethos is very Indian. They are figuring out how to do jugaad and not step back on progress. So I think, the headline news might make one dejected, but below the surface there is a lot of resistance.
Resilience.
There's a lot of resilience. There's a lot of resistance. There are people figuring out how not to roll back all this progress, so that we can, continue with the difficult world or work of helping create a more equitable world. Does the headline news make me anxious and upset? Yeah. But I just have to look all around me at the incredible people who are doing the good work and say that we are not going to stop. So, because, I mean, it's a long-term
Indeed.
dream, right? Because, and what we are fighting for is not nothing, is nothing revolutionary in a sense. It's basic. Why should the world is 50% women? Why should workplaces not be 50% women? There are it's just basic, right? Why should persons with disabilities not have access and infrastructure so that they can flourish like persons without disabilities? Why should organizations judge against someone on the basic or basis of something as simple and silly as who you choose to love? Like, why should you not have benefits for LGBTQ? I don't get it, right? And so what we're, the DI conversations in workplaces are about basics, right? It's about saying, and all the data also says that. There's years of data now that says that when you commit to inclusion, your profits go up, you become 8 times more innovative, you attract the best employees. It's so for a lot of uh, us who are doing the work, it's kind of a no-brainer in the sense of, why we are doing this work, and how we together with each other have the solidarity to continue with the work. So I would urge you also uh, not to be dejected with the headline news. It is painful, but to incend, look at, we think of us as Godrej as an island of hope, and there are other islands of hope, and if we can then hold hands together, we become, a
A
large
chain of
mass of
islands, a
hope.
garland of
Yeah.
islands.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Parmesh, so we'll take this further. The LGBTQ movement,
yeah,
its part in corporate India, the role it plays in the world. Let's go back a little, okay? So
yeah,
ancient India, our Shastras never
yeah,
spoke of repressing or persecuting. What they called was the Tritiya Prakriti. They called it a Tritiya Prakriti, okay? So there was a clear space for the third gender, very clearly defined space. There was never any repression. In fact, in the Gita, chapter 3, verse 33, Lord Krishna clearly says that there is absolute all living beings flow from their acquired nature, and what can repression accomplish? So
yeah,
repression was never sanctioned in any of our shastras. Number
yeah,
two, there's a point I'm coming to. Okay.
yeah,
Number
yeah,
two, we've seen. Okay, look at Chanakya's Arthashastra, where
yeah,
Chanakya clearly says that anybody who persecutes the Tritiya Prakriti will himself be punished and fined. Okay?
yeah,
Look
yeah,
at the sanctioned LGBTQ, the Tritiya Prakriti presence in the Shastras. Lord
yeah,
Ayappa, whose
yeah.
son is he? He is the son of the union of Shiva and Vishnu. Vishnu, of
Correct.
course, in Avatar as Mohini.
Yeah,
Okay?
yeah, yeah,
Look at Kunti and her giving birth to Yudhishthir and Arjun and Bhim through Niyoga. There was no intercourse. Okay?
yeah,
So that was, again,
yeah,
not the regular way of going about it. Look at Arjun as Brihannala in King Virat's court. He gets
yeah,
so much of respect. Look at Bhagirath. I mean, he got Gangaji to earth. And
yeah.
Bhagirath was not born of a father. He was born of the union of two
Correct.
mothers.
Of two
The
mothers. Yeah.
point I'm trying to make is this,
And there are
Parmesh.
so many more. There's Shikhandi, there's
Yes, yes,
Lord
yes, yes.
Ram.
You name it. You name
When
it
they
in
come
this.
back from Ayodhya, there's so much. There's
Correct,
so much.
correct.
Yeah.
No, and when Krishna goes to Dwarka,
Correct.
bhai, because
Yeah.
the first ones
Yeah.
to welcome him are
Yeah.
the
The
people of the
trans.
Tritiya
Yeah.
Prakriti. What I'm
Correct.
trying to say is, Parmesh, despite having such strong institutions like yours, and with the kind of the subtle persecution that is coming the way of the LGBTQ community within India itself. Why is it that you're not falling back on this factual, fantastic narrative to strengthen the case of the LGBTQ? You know that public opinion always results in great change. Look at what happened. Bhavri
Yeah.
Devi went through that ordeal. Vishaka guidelines emerged and they led to POSH. We
Yeah.
women are safer at workplaces because of those
Because
prevention of
yeah.
sexual harassment guidelines. Why is it that I see a complete absence? You're not using the shastras to further your case. What are your thoughts on this, please?
Actually, many of us are. If you read Queeristan, my book, I mean, there's a whole chapter on queerness and history and mythology, and it's not just in in our ancient Hindu texts. There's mention and there's presence of queerness in Jain texts, in texts from Islamic India. So there is enough of heritage that we have around queerness over thousands of years, in this land and our civilization. And many of us who write on it, many of us in the kind of advocacy we do, we talk about it quite a lot. The thing is, when the British came, they didn't just colonize our country; they also colonized our minds, and we're still recovering from, those
Victorian
years of
morality.
those years of homophobia, which they imposed upon us. And because Macaulay and his subjects created a class of Indian elites who went to schools and who were taught the same way as, say, the British former rulers, internalize a lot of this homophobia. And so the British left, but now it's taken more than 70 years to get the homophobia out also of our country. And we haven't succeeded. It's a work in progress, because so much of the homophobic legacy still remain. But we are using the, I mean, which is also the Indian queer movement has grown because of its rootedness. The movement has not grown because none of us in the movement have said that it's come from the West, or we learn from, we engage with the global discourse, we share our ideas, many things that the rest of the world learns from us also. For example, the way our trans families are organized, the gharanas are organized. These are great, actually, lessons for the rest of the world. But we in the movement have always used the fact that we come from this heritage a lot. And in fact, it's also what gets people to change their minds, right? If in workplaces, in homes and families, our struggle is not just in the court of law. The struggle is at homes, around dinner tables, in workplaces, photocopy, water cooler conversations. These are all points of where your inflection with the world at large, where queer people and straight people can learn about each other. And so, the fact that our queerness is deeply rooted is actually something that we do talk about a lot. Maybe in the news it doesn't come across that way. Maybe all the news coverage tends to be more about, say, the legal victories or the pride marches or things like that. But on a daily basis in the interactions, it's very. And again, I firmly believe, and I've done years of research, say, in both my books. I don't think that we in India are homophobic at all. We might be ignorant about certain things, but I don't see that kind of virulent homophobia that exists in other parts of the world. Because even though we have remnants of this homophobia that the British have left, and it's just taking a long time to kick off, it's not acute in the sense of how it is in other parts of the world. I think people have just forgotten. So we need to remind them of the fact
Yes.
that our traditions
Yes.
are very plural and very broad. In fact, to be Indian is to be inclusive. So which is why I find it astounding that so many Indian parents, treat their queer children badly. Because if you're treating your queer child badly, you're not being a good Indian parent.
Yeah.
You're acting like a Victorian morality ka British parent. And even they have changed over the years. If you go to UK right now, attitudes towards being LGBTQ have changed significantly. So you want to be a good Indian parent or you want to be a good Indian boss, you have to be inclusive. I think we have to remind people this. They've forgotten.
Parmesh, you'll agree that nomenclature makes a huge, huge, huge
Yeah.
impact on the ecosystem. Okay, that's
Yeah.
why batsmen have given way to batters, and a poetess is now a poet, an actress is now an actor, and why not?
Yeah.
It was long due. Uh, I see in front of me, I see in you a beautifully natural human being, conceived naturally, nurtured naturally in a womb, delivered beautifully and naturally. Please tell me, please tell us, why would you call yourself queer? You're wonderfully natural and beautiful. Why queer? Where is that coming from?
So queer is a word that the community has claimed. It was a slur for many years. For so many years, people thought. There's a history of treating LGBTQ people badly, and one part of that tradition was calling them names. So queer, in that sense, was little strange, little ajib, little whatever. And for years, people were
ये
called this
कितनी
as a
गलत बात
taunt.
है ना, कितनी
As
गलत
a
बात है.
taunt. So it was called as a taunt for many years. But then queer people, in the sense, I think gay is a wonderful word. No? Gay comes from being happy. So why would you why would you think it's bad for someone to be gay if they're happy? But anyway, names are names. But I think over the years, the queer community, the LGBT community has reclaimed that word. So they said, if you think queer is a taunt, for us, queer is a positive word. So it is good to be queer. It is good to be different. It is good to be, queerness is part of everything. And if you look at even nature and society, nature also is, prakriti. You said Tritiya Prakriti, right? What is prakriti? The nature of the meaning of prakriti is that there's variance. If every flower was red, it would be very boring, right? And nature is beautiful because there are red flowers and there are purple flowers and there are yellow flowers and there are marigolds and there are, white flowers. And that variance is a part of it. So queerness in that sense of being different, being strange is also part of nature. It is the variance that makes nature beautiful. And so the community has, so it's not a bad word now. The meaning of queer today is not strange. The meaning of queer is either you belong to this huge umbrella term, LGBTQIA+. So queer is an umbrella term for all kinds of variants. queer is also a political term that many straight people use when they want to say not conform to patriarchy or heteronormativity. So you might identify as straight, for example, personally, you might say I'm heterosexual, but you can still be queer if you believe in queer marriage, if you believe that the world can be beautiful and diverse, if you believe there's various ways of being and not just one way, you are queer in your politics. So queer is a word that we've kind of reclaimed, which is I kind of like it. I'm a maximalist. I'm a more is more person. So I think there should be many words, and we should all just use the words that we like. So I like LGBTQIA plus also. I like gay also. I like queer also. There are so many Indian terms: hijra, kothi, aravani, jogappa. There are so many. We have a rich tradition of queerness in our country. So I say more is more, and we're every year as people grow, as society evolves, people come up with new ways of understanding the feelings that they had. For example, non-binary, for example, asexual, for example, agender, and it's so wonderful to have a word that describes how you feel. So I mean, I'm a big believer in multiplicity.
Excellent. You know what you remind me of? A beautiful sher, which fits in so well on what you've said. कि चमन में इख्तलाते रंग बू से बात बनती है चमन में
Mm.
इख्तलाते रंग बू से बात बनती है you need all kinds of myriad shades of
Yes.
color and fragrance to make a garden तुम ही तुम हो तो क्या तुम हो हम ही हम हैं तो क्या हम हैं you
Beautiful.
see,
Beautiful. Yeah.
this is Sarshar Sailani. चमन में इख्तिलाते रंगबू से बात बनती है तुम ही
Yeah.
तुम हो तो क्या तुम हो हम ही हम हैं तो क्या हम हैं
If
Absolutely.
only, yeah, if only everyone in our country, could hear that, could resonate with it. It is. I mean, the spirit of the share is the ethos of India.
Yes, indeed.
And I think we need to constantly remind ourselves of that.
Indeed, indeed. The uniqueness of India lies in the fact that it can never be one. It
Yeah.
has to be a commemoration of so many infinite strands of fragrances, of colors, of people, of races, of
Yeah.
languages, of
Yeah.
religions. You know, we have the lunar calendar in India, right? But even within our lunar calendar, the Bengalis have a separate New Year, the Gujaratis are separate. None of us are following the solar calendar,
Yeah.
right? None of us are
Yeah.
following the Gregorian calendar, but we all
Yeah.
have different. So that is the fun of it. There's not Chandrama ek hai. The moon is
Yeah.
one, but we have the freedom to follow. Nevertheless, you know, you and
Yeah.
I could go on with this, but then here we have certain more things to. Yeah, we're running out of time. Your website says that we are only good as what we do next.
Yeah.
Given that you're very keen on empowering inclusions, can you specify what is your way forward? What are the specific things that you wish to do to take inclusivity forward in India?
Oh, everything. I'm on a mission, and I want everything done yesterday.
Let's hear.
As I as I told you earlier, there's no reason why every Indian organization shouldn't look like the society it serves. So there's no reason why we shouldn't have 50% women in all workplaces. Some might say it's hard in manufacturing. You know what? Let's solve it. Some might say it's hard in sales. You know what? Let's figure out what the pain points are and solve it. We're smart, right? Maybe it's a technological end. Maybe it's a technological solution. Maybe the most basic thing is to create more toilets. So, I mean, I'm just saying a lot of the
Maybe there
pain
is no
points,
problem.
maybe there's no problem. So a lot of it is comes from that. And so what we are trying to do is we are throwing everything at the problem. We are trying to change policies. We are putting it as a major goal on our leaders' goal sheets. We are giving budgets. We're trying to work with academia to solve this. We're doing public events. We're doing storytelling. We're doing communication. We're doing whatever it takes to figure it out and to push the needle within Godrej. But we're also really telling everyone, Ki, let's do this together, tying up with. We've had some wonderful consultations, for example, with the PM Chief Scientific Officer and the team to advance women in STEM. They're very keen on that. It's great always to work with state. I mean, I told you we just launched a new GCPL factory in Tamil Nadu. Again, the state government is very keen on advancing, say, gender equity over there, as well as other kinds. whether LGBTQ, PWD, or whatever. So we're doing whatever it takes, working with whoever it takes, talking to whoever will listen, whether it is videos, whether it is podcasts, doing whatever it takes, because we firmly believe that, it is win-win. And all the research also says that, when you go on an inclusion journey, I mean, everyone benefits, not just in terms of representations, right? When there's diversity in your organizations, you can think of better products and services because the people you are serving are now in. Otherwise, you're imagining for those people, right? I mean, there are so many laughable stories about 10 men engineers trying to design a better sanitary napkin. I mean, it's a joke. I mean, why would you not have a woman in your design team, right? I mean, it's so silly, right?
We've got
Uh,
infinite jokes like that. I'm
so,
not going
I
into
mean,
that.
yeah. So all the data says that this is, I mean, it's the right thing to do. It's the smart thing to do. All the data says that this makes you more money. I mean, we do live in neoliberal capitalism. People do like more money. So all the data says that young people, Gen Zs, millennials, etc., want to work with organizations that care. They want to live in countries that care. They want to be part of a world that treats everyone equally and that doesn't pollute the planet and that all of that, right? So I mean, this is, to me, it's not rocket science, and I think everyone, we are throwing everything at it, and I think everyone should, because there's really no downside. In fact, if we don't, then I mean, I don't know what world is going to come, because if we're going to enter a world in which we are, creating global warming and polluting ourselves to a point where there's no way out, if we're denying large numbers of people the chance to work and have a livelihood and have dignity, I mean, what kind of a world is it, right? It's not going to be a meaningful world. It's not even going to be a profitable world. So we're doing whatever we can, and I just urge everyone who's listening, wherever you are located and whatever you're doing, to also do whatever you can. And don't think that this is only a women's issue or a PWD
Mhm.
issue, or an LGBTQ issue, or a region issue, or any minority issue. Because if you add everything up, it is our issue together.
Parmesh, before we open the floor to our audience, one last question.
Hmm.
Can you try and understand your work a little better by perhaps giving us specific instances of policy that you've been actually been able to influence, either at the local level, the council level, or at the state level, or at the central level, please?
I mean, I can tell you about the policies we've changed at a Godrej level, and it's made such a difference. So we reimagined caregiving last year, and we just did three pillars. We said, self care, childcare and elder care. And self care is also important. So whether it's mental health, whether it's unlimited sick leave, whether it's all of these things, elder care, most people are not talking about. But the truth is, India, as in other societies which are, deeply family oriented, people who work do have a lot of elder care commitments, whether it's parents, whether it's in-laws, whether it's anyone. So how can you
Yes.
support that? So we're doing a lot around that, whether it's services, whether it's vendors, whether it's all of that. And again, parenting, it's 2025. So we reimagined it from gendered ways as say, uh, maternity and paternity, and we've called it primary and secondary caregiver. And the primary caregiver is 6 months, and for the secondary caregiver, it's 2 months. And we're just trying to push, usage now. I mean, we've changed all the policies. And again, in all of these, there are multiple variations. So, for example, we cover for our trans colleagues, we cover gender affirmation surgery up to 8 lakhs. We cover hormones up to, I think, 60 or 80,000 per year. I mean, there's so many other, all of these have nuances, but they're all around self, elder, and child. And our aim is for everyone to kind of, we'd love others to kind of use the same matrix of policies as well, because it just makes better sense. So many people are afraid. For example, when we moved to unlimited sick leave, everyone in other companies said, "Oh, now you have unlimited sick leave. Your employees are going to take sick leave so much." But actually, the number of people taking sick leave reduced because the employees felt that we trusted them enough. So if they tell us they're sick, then they're sick. Otherwise, you have a fixed number of sick leave days.
You
What
want
we
to be
found
sick.
is towards the end of the year, everyone is using their sick leave days.
Yes, you want to be sick. Sure,
It's kind of
sure.
silly, right? So yeah, so our thing is, again, none of this is rocket science. It's quite basic. Treat people well, think of them, just act decent. Decency is not meant to be complicated and rocket scientified. uh, But likewise, I mean, and so I think what's really helped us is talking to people and sharing what we do. So if everyone wants to know what we do, we've created on our website 600 resources on our DI lab, the directory. We're like, I don't want to tell you again.
I've
Go,
gone
it's
through it.
searchable. Yeah, find what you want and use it. And let's just move ahead now. So we're doing that with other organizations as well, whether it's governments, whether it's other companies, whether it's industries. What I've told each of my group level MDs that I want you to be the industry thought leader. So if for Godrej Chemicals, I want you to lead the chemicals industry. If you're agrovet, I want you to think about, which is why we're doing all these reports like Women in Agri, etc. Let's take our industry along with us. Because at a company level, you can only do so much, right? You have maybe a few
Right.
thousand employees. So at an industry level, I mean, there's millions of people in agri. So if we can help change the thinking in agri, how amazing would that be? So this is the direction we're going in. We're doing whatever we can, and we're talking to whoever we can. That's our motto, and hopefully we'll make a difference.
Fantastic. Of course, where there's a will, there's always been a way.
Yeah.
Parmesh, we
There
would
was a
like to
Lilith, there
now.
was a Lilith Dubet play which said where no Mahesh Datani play. It says where there's a will, there's a long line of people
Oh,
waiting
yes.
to be
Oh, yes.
to be
Oh,
part
yes.
of the
I
will.
remember that. Yes, yes, yes. Indeed. Yes, yes. Parmesh, let's wait for a question. But in the meantime, I would like you to prepare yourself for one pithy sentence that would be a
Mhm.
message to all those who have watched you this evening and who will continue to watch you when this will be uploaded. Okay, this will remain for posterity. So think of that one pithy sentence, your message that defines you as a person, that defines your thoughts, that defines your life mission. Think of that, please. And while we wait for people to come up with the question, why don't you give that to us now?
Okay. So it's very simple. My thing is this is the moment, right? This is the time for everyone who's listening. Don't waste this opportunity. If we have to create Amrit Kal, this is that moment where we create it. Because we're never gonna have it, this unique confluence of forces. We're never going to have it at this like we have at this moment. Our economy is at a sweet spot. We've had great years of say fiscal consolidation. Our businesses are in a great spot. We have young people who are raring to go and who are committed to creating a better India and a better world. So this is that moment where all of you listening can really, wherever you are located, if you're in a school or college, talk and create the change that you need. If you're in a workplace, insist that you will work at a company which really changes its policies, practices, and commits to inclusion. And if you're in any position of power, whether it is in the government, whether it's at an industrial, or an association or a body, this is the moment to tell your members that don't miss this moment, because we're at a point where we are going to shift what we do in terms of work. Technology is going to be such a big differentiator. If we can look at everything we do from an inclusion lens, inclusion and sustainability, of course, then we can really, really help create a better and a more equitable future. If we don't do this in the next 5 to 10 years, then I think we are doomed. So this is that moment. Everyone who's listening, don't think you have a lot of time. This is our last shot at helping create a better world. So please do whatever you can. And if you're a parent, more than anything else, if you're a parent, that really your only job is to love your children. You should not be doing anything else, so please don't force your kids into doing anything that they don't want. I'm like, because a lot of our challenges say that we encounter in the workplace come from homes. So if you're a parent, you have only one job, which is to love your children and empower them. And if they want to be empowered by joining the workforce, don't stop them. If they want to be empowered by sharing that they happen to be LGBTQ, don't hold them back. If they happen to be a person with disabilities, don't try and overprotect them. In fact, help try and create an infrastructure for them to go and work and flourish and work with organizations to do so. So, just act and empower is my message. I know you said one sentence, a very long sentence with many commas.
And a complex one at that. But
Yeah,
nevertheless, we'll stick with the last bit. Your sentence was act and empower.
yeah,
Could there be
yeah.
anything shorter and sweeter? Excellent. Parmesh, we've had a question from Rajarshi Ghosh.
Yeah.
Rajeshi, are you there, please? You were first in queue. Um, your question, please, Rajeshi. I'm not sure Parmesh can see it. Could you come back again?
Oh, I can see
Yes.
it.
Yes.
Would
Can
President
you?
of USA be able to influence implement of DI? No, Baba.
Why
Rajashri,
do you say so?
President of USA can do what they want to do in USA, no? In India, it is we are a parliamentary democracy. DI is many things. DI is in India and the world. Everything could come under the rubric of DI. For example, reservations could come under the rubric of DI. Affirmative action, say for women in parliamentary seats, could come in that. And there's so many things that you can think of, right? Because DI
Parmesh,
is
I'd like to interrupt you.
yeah.
In a globalized world, in a heavily globalized world, where everything is interconnected, how is it that an influence cannot but be? They're the most
I mean,
powerful
I
economy
think
in the world.
we certainly listen to what the US president says about DI, but it doesn't have to impact what we do, and it is not impacting what we do. It is not because again, I'm telling you, we deal with one of the things we do at our lab is we talk to other people. And everything that we're hearing from people in other organizations, everyone we interact with, at in various government departments, they're like, we are on our course because it doesn't, we are committed to creating a better world for our citizens, and we believe that this is the only way to prosper globally. So it isn't really impacting our work on the ground. Is it creating TV noise? Is it creating news bites? Is it creating a lot of this volume? Yeah, but our work is not being impacted at all. In fact, I'm not seeing that at all. I'm seeing our work actually moving ahead. Yeah, yeah. So Rajshri, I
Wonderful.
just want to tell you ki, you know, the US president has no jurisdiction in our country. Huh. Huh.
Jurisdiction, no, but yes.
Huh.
So we have Shomodeep asking us how we can create an equal society worldwide. Thank you, Shomodeep, for the question.
Yeah,
Parmesh.
Shomadeep, by starting in our homes and families. What is the world if not I know Vasudeva Kutumbakam and the world is our family, but let's start with our family
Same.
first, our own family first. So talk to your family members, educate them, share these things with them. If you see any kind of bullying of anyone, stop them right there. Look, we all have some power over something or the other, right from where and we use this quite a lot. So any gift that we do, for example, at our lab, we give people umbrellas, Netra umbrellas that are made by blind artisans, in the same suburb in Vikhroli. Any bag we use is a woven grass bag made by women from a marginalized community. I'm saying you may not be able to give jobs, but you may be able to give, patronize, and community-run organization.
Promote.
You might be able to volunteer your time somewhere. You might be able to do advocacy. I'm saying do something to create a more inclusive world. The first thing you can do is talk to your family members who might be ignorant about so many things, and just share ideas and talk to them about what living in a more united, more equal world looks like, right? And then we'll think about, once we have more and more of this, the world will become more equitable in general, right?
I think the critical thing, let's also, the elephant in the room is talk to them and tell them that homosexuality is not an aberration. It is not
Yeah,
unnatural. It is nothing to be ashamed of. It is nothing to be
yeah,
embarrassed about. It is
yeah.
as natural as anything else. Show them the Shastras. Older people generally believe that quite easily. Irene comes up with a fantastic question. She asks you as to how do you see India, the Indian corporate world in terms of inclusivity in the next decade? The next 10 years, what do you think the map is?
I think we're all working very hard to create a better Indian corporate world so that the numbers that Swati spoke about at the beginning, really improve for society at large. So I see a lot of buy-in from people at the top. I see a lot of momentum and energy from people entering the corporate world. I think you have to convince this middle, right? That it is in their interest, right? So leaders, owners of family businesses, the government, everyone is committed. Young people just in or entering the workforce, students understand it. it's the people in the middle that we have to, like, enlighten, educate, help go through that process. I see it happening. I see it happening because I see a momentum towards it, greatly. And I think it's good because I think we have one shot at showing ourselves as the world at large what enlightened capitalism looks like. And I hope we will take it. uh, and that's my hope. That's why I continue to do the work I do.
Parmesh, the star for this evening is a man whose name starts with a P, right? Before we
Hmm.
go to Rajesh's question, next question, the other P that we haven't touched is patriarchy. Patriarchy very
Yeah.
often cuts the very branch it's sitting on. Okay,
Yeah.
and
Very
when
much so.
when Posh came in, I distinctly remember because I've been such a part of that whole thing. A large number of my male friends said, we're not going to be employing women because it's such a hassle to employ them. We're not going to be employing them because, you never know. We're going to have CCTVs in our rooms and so on and so forth. What are your thoughts on the fact that there's that elephant in the room? Patriarchy is still there. Patriarchy doesn't approve of LGBTQs. Patriarchy doesn't want you around, doesn't want me around. We're in the same boat. Address that quickly,
We have
please.
to, yeah, we have to. And one way we've addressed it is by working with people's children. Patriarchs listen to their children also. So we have to we have to work with the next generation. We have to make it uncool for patriarchs to be patriarchs. When their daughter tells them, Papa, what is this nonsense? Suddenly they're embarrassed. So I think we have to create a world in which, being inclusive is the done thing. Uh, but not, again, the thing is, no one likes to be scolded, made to feel bad, made to feel so. I mean, and there is a way, and it's with humor, with emotions, with grace, with media, with storytelling, it all comes together. Mindsets do change, but for that change to happen, there's a complex set of things and I see all of this happening. Again, I'm on the board of two incredible NGOs. I often go to villages in Haryana. I talk to Khap Panchayats. I see the students on the ground. I see the work that people are doing to shift these things. It's not easy, but
No.
people are cleverly, whether it's street plays, whether it's emotionally, whether it's through love, whether it's through infrastructure. I mean, one of the things that came up in one particular moment was that this father was stopping his girl from going to school, not because he didn't believe girls should study, but because the bus stop that was there in the village, to reach the bus stop you had to pass an alcohol daru ka thela, you had to pass an alcohol
Take that,
shop.
take that. Hmm.
Theka. So then the point is, change the location of the daru ka theka. I mean,
Or
some
the
of
bus
it
stop.
is, yeah, I mean, or create a bus stop somewhere else so the girls walk to the bus stop is easier. So I'm saying a lot of these, I'm seeing these changes happening on the ground. So I mean, it's so easy to paint ki men are like this or this is like this. Is, of course, you have to help shift the mindsets, but I'm seeing a lot of people are coming in with solutions, saying, what is your real issue? And then they'll say, my real issue is this. Okay, this we can solve. So I'm saying, and these changes are happening in that. So it's something that we all have to do, which is why I said earlier, start with your families and, like, normalize inclusion in that
Now
sense.
that you've mentioned the Cup Panchayats,
Yeah.
how do they react to this entire trans movement, given how conservative they are?
It's knowledge, it's love, it's affection. How do you talk to them? How do you share with them? How do you include? I think it's very easy to paint people with broad brushstrokes, but everyone at the end of it is a person with emotions that you can tap into and move. And I think if you use the right impetus and stimulus, you'd be surprised at how people are willing to expand their worldviews anywhere.
Right.
So I'm a big believer in the inherent goodness in people. And I've seen
Yeah.
so much of that also in the past so many years of work that it gives me hope.
We've got one last question. Um, uh, Rajesh, she says, if my son or daughter wants to have a career in DEI, what should they have to study? Fantastic question.
That's a great question. Right now, there are a few places in the world, not in India. So that's one of the things we're thinking about at our lab, to create a course that can actually serve the community well. But as of now, the people who come into DI come either from business. So it's either someone from, business, HR, etc., who's looking at DI through the lens of, say, numbers, analytics, etc., or they come from the social sector. They come from NGO experience in sensitization and workshops and so on, right? And we have both those teams actually in our lab. There isn't any course that gives you the comprehensive outlook on, fundamentals of inclusion. What are the building blocks? There isn't really a course. There is a 2-year program at Tufts University in America, in Boston, which is very. It's a good program, but it's more related to DI in the American context. So more than 50% of the syllabus is around race and racial inequality, not so much about the kinds of inequality we will face in India or in the Indian workplace. So I think the best way is to like figure out, do you have a DI SPOC? Do you have a DI team? Just go to our website, honestly, see our videos, read all the resources. There's like hundreds of things literally that will give you a sense of the landscape. Um, what is inequity? What is bias? What is psychological safety? What's the business case for DI? What are the metrics? I mean, now all of this is available if you look online enough, most of it on our website. And just like, educate yourself right now. But most people who are working in the DI space are working out of experience. So someone somehow joins a DI team and then they and then they start learning. And that's how it's been so far in India.
And who knows that your lab will now introduce a certificate course and very soon
Yeah.
a postgraduate diploma course in DI, right? That could be the way forward.
We are very much thinking about it. We're doing the research right now. We're thinking about it. We're thinking about what it would mean. Again, our whole aim is how will it serve India better. So we're in that. So maybe we'll announce it in a year or so. But we're really examining this, Rajshri, because it's something that we found as well. Like, how do we create? 30 years ago, there were not marketing or supply chain programs, and now there are so many, right? Just as knowledge evolves, the training for these fields also evolve, right? And so I think it would be great to be part of a curriculum development, plan for DIA.
Thank you, Parmesh. We now come to the conclusion of a very beautiful evening. 58 minutes have passed by in a jiffy. We almost in the blink of an eye. We cannot thank you enough. On behalf of the Indian Chamber of Commerce, we accept your thanks and give you ours, and we say you're most welcome. And to all those who tuned in, please keep tuning in to these beautiful talks. Thank you. Have a
Thank you,
nice evening.
Swati. Lots of
Most
love to
welcome.
everyone.
And you. Yeah, yeah.